Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Are you there? Are you really out there?
Yeah.
All right, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me and this great crew today. Um, Out of your busy day and hectic lives and wild times, and I'm really glad that you're here with me. And I'm excited to share some ideas and things that will get you thinking about your practice with children, your professional practice with children, and how you can support more play, and how you can think about risky play, and how you can think about what your yeses are and what your nos are, and how you can work to say yes a little more, move the needle and say yes a little more to play. So, um, a quick, let's do a quick poll just to see who we have here. So, from McAdam, we could start that first poll of, I want to find out, like, are you early childhood educators, infant toddler folks, school agers, parents, grandparents, Parks and Rec, designer? Do you happen to have a play blog and from Nova Scotia? Is that who you are, Alex? Other? I fit under the other. Okay, all right. So it looks like we have a nice mix, but mostly early childhood educators. And so we could end that. I can get rid of that myself. And let me just start here by saying thank you. Thank you for the work that you do with children and with young children. And it is incredibly important work, and it takes a lot of patience and practice and reflection and love and humor, and it is really beautiful, deep work, and I want to say thank you for it. And I think in these trying times, when we didn't know, are our caregivers and our early childhood professionals, can they be with our children, and can we not, are they not going to be able to be together? And I think the rest of the world has realized what you and I have known for a long time about how essential you are and the work that you do for young children is. And it's essential to the lives of the children, that special bond that you have with the children that you work with, and it's essential to their families, and then it's essential to the businesses because of the places, those families where they work, where those parents work, and then it's essential to those towns and cities because that's what makes it run, and society. And I think we see, without you, society can't really function. We need you. We need you taking care of our babies, taking care of our kids, helping to raise them up and lift them up. And your work lifts us all up. And without you, we fall and we're on pause. And so I want to just start by saying thank you. And it is a crazy time, right? There's the understatement of the decade. Um, and I wanted to just do a quick poll just to see how many people are back with children in person, because there's a long time that we couldn't be with the children. And so are you back, McAdam? If we could just do a quick poll number two, are you with, just to see? Okay. It looks like it's 50-50-ish, maybe a few more percentage that are with children, and okay. And maybe you started back with children, and maybe now because things are rising, that now we're waiting, we're on pause again from children. I know that's going to be so hard for the families, but of course it's so hard for you too, who love being with children and love play, and that's why you do what you do. So my heart goes out to you for that. But I want to do a little thing with the chat box, and through all this stuff, we've had so much on our plate and so much, you know, uncertainty and things to be nervous about on so many different levels. I wanted you to write in the chat box, what lifts your spirits? What's one thing that you've been doing through all this all this coronavirus, etc. time, what has lifted your spirits in this? And maybe we look in the chat box and maybe we can get some ideas. Is it going for walks? Is it, Zooming with your children if you're long distance, being with your family, binge watching Netflix, your cat? Okay, we're seeing them here. Be in the mountains, games, being outdoors. And I think it's good for us to kind of reflect on that stuff, because it's still, we're still in the thick of things, and it's important to, have do things for yourself. And so I think about what we're doing right now, and I thank you of that. This is some me time for you. This is some you time. So I'm glad that you took a little time, and I'm honored that you're spending some time with me, and hopefully it'll be informative and interesting, but also that we can have some fun, and then also a good chance to kind of reflect on the times that you spend with children. So, yeah, what is this about? What am I talking about? I'm going to be talking about play and the beauty of play. And I'm a believer in play. My background is design, so I kind of came through, becoming aware and in awe and in love of play and free play. And that's when I say play, I think about like free play, child-directed play, there's self-directed play. And it's, it's, as it's a wonder to watch, right? Children will do things that we would never imagine, never expect. And it's the lucky few people like us that get to like witness it and be a part of it and support it. And so I love all the wild play and the messy play and crazy play and creative play. And I used to just strictly be in love with that, right? But I think the more time I've spent in the world of play, the more that I'm really amazed is the adults who are just off, the amazing plays going on, but it's the adults just off camera, just to the side, who are allowing the play to happen, who are saying yes to play, or who are not saying no. And that's kind of what this talk and these ideas are about. When you see the creative play, we know the kids are there. They're ready to play, right? They're ready to rock and roll. But as sad as it might be, they really can only play when we say they can, right? They're really kind of under our care, our jurisdiction. And when we say no, don't do that, well, they can't do that, even if their play was flowing that way in a natural way. And we say no with our voice, or with our looks, or our body language, or our redirection, or and why do we say no? Why do we say yes to things? Why do we say no to things? And I would say that, to me, the definition of risky play is it's really just play, but it may be it may be risky play because it's what makes the adults nervous. Kids are going to get into stuff, and that's, they're supposed to. They're supposed to be like pushing the limits, right? Pushing the limits, but that can make us uncomfortable. And part of our job is, of course, support and celebrate play, and take things to the next level and help kids do that. But it's also to make sure kids are safe, right? No one's getting hurt in big ways. So that's okay. So that's important. So, but so that play that could make us uncomfortable triggers that instinct to protect. And we may say, no, stop, don't do that. You'll poke your eye out. So risky play, if we think about that as really just play that is pushing the limits, and we think about kind of the sweep of childhood development, from infants who then start to crawl. They've never crawled before, and then they want it. It's inborn. It's like flowers growing, trees growing, things rising up, children rising up. So the infant wants to crawl. The crawler wants to toddle. And, we know that a toddler is going to fall on their bottom, right? Time and time again. But, right, we'd be crazy if we're like, Don't walk, you could fall. Don't try to walk, you're gonna fall. But then so then they start walking, and then they then take it to the next level, and then suddenly they're preschoolers, and they're, climbing high, and they're jumping off things, and they're running fast, and they're, things can happen. They're holding sticks, and then those kind of things make us nervous, and then we may say no, because A, we don't want kids hurt, and B, we don't like that feeling. And that's understandable. That's understandable. So this is about kind of looking within at these kinds of play experiences. And I think another good place to start when we start to think about children's play today and the children that you work with is to think back to our own childhood. So let's do a little exercise here. Get comfortable for a sec. Quick show of hands. We can see if we can do this. Who was a child once? Okay, all right, look at that. Okay, we've all been children. We've all passed through that portal of childhood. And so, okay, so I want you to just think back to some favorite outdoor, it could be indoor, but favorite places you played and the kinds of play that you did. And I do natural playscapes, so I'm always talking about sensory experiences. So think back to all the different sensory experiences that were there in your favorite play space. And think back to what it looked like, of course, but what did it feel like? Or what did it smell like? Or sound like? Or if you nibbled on things, what did it taste like? And then think about the kind of play that happened there and different seasons and who was there with you. And your favorite stuff, were there adults around? Did you do things your mother didn't know about? Were you a free-range kid? Yeah, some free-range kids out there. Were there things that were risky? And maybe if you want to just write in the chat box, just a quick little line about where you played or what you did as you're thinking here. And were you more protected or overprotected? That's something to think about. But it's good for us to go back and remember, see through the eyes of our own little us, and remember where we played. So I'm seeing outside, backyard, dirt, and it could be maybe you had nature, maybe you were in the city, maybe you had a backyard, maybe you were on the sidewalk or street, or maybe you were inside. But it's good to think about the kinds of play that we did so that then we can re-look at the kinds of play that is in front of us when we're working with children. Because maybe we did some of those same things that we're seeing kids now do that made us nervous. And even like, do you let your own children do what you did? Are you letting the children there in your care do what you did? And maybe you were a free-range kid, and the idea that maybe kids don't get to do the same sort of things that you were able to do, and maybe you were freer than children today, maybe not, but it's good to think about that even within your fenced-in area. And because maybe children, either in coronavirus time or because of fear in society or overstructure, maybe children aren't getting those kinds of experiences, but maybe they can with you in your fenced-in area. So your yard becomes an important place for play and for learning and for trial and error and for growth and for challenge and for success and some failure and then retrying. And I would say that when we think about risky play, these are kind of the benefits of risky play. In that children uh, they need to try stuff, right? They need to go to the next level, the next level, the next level. And when they do, they have the opportunity to assess risk themselves. If we can, okay, so the knee-jerk reaction when we see something nerve-wracking is to step forward and stop it. You'll poke your eye out. What are you doing with that stick? No sticks. We have a no stick rule, whatever. Or on that log, you'll fall off. But what we want to try to get in the habit of doing is, instead of our knee-jerk reaction to step forward and stop it, is to take a step back, maybe 1,000, 2, 1,000, observe and see what the children are doing. And when we observe, just give that little split second, 3-second, 2-second time, we can more often than not see that children are okay, that children, they have a plan and they're acting on their plan. And also that if we give them a little bit of time, they can learn to assess risk for themselves. And ultimately, if we're talking about children being safer and healthier in the short term, and especially the long term, I mean, that's what we're gearing up for, to launch children to be safe and healthy in the long term. They need to be able to assess risks themselves and look within and think, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Do I want to balance on this log? Maybe, or maybe not. And we want them to exercise that inner guidance, that, like exercising a muscle of like being able to see it for themselves. Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? And that will make them safer in the long run, because they can do it, and they can practice it with you, with your loving support, maybe just a step or two back. Now, there's plenty of times when you still got to step in and stop it, and you still got to say no. And if you're working with toddlers, they'll try anything, right? So you got to watch out. But more often than not, and the more you practice, just little by little by little, by maybe not, by saying yes or not saying no. And when we don't say no, we're essentially saying yes. When we don't say no, then we can watch play unfold, and maybe amazingly, miraculously, they didn't poke their eye out, or they didn't really get hurt the way that we thought. And we are good thinkers. We got these big thinkers up here, and because of our, the way our brains work for survival and to protect our young, we can imagine terrible things happening. When kids are balancing on logs or climbing or running really fast, we see the bad things and we don't want the bad things to happen. So we say no. But what I'd like us to start thinking about is using these good thinkers to be creative in thinking about the positive things that could happen in all these situations. Like, okay, you could fall off that log, but wait, what's a positive thing that could happen? So, and then we start to exercise that, and then we can weigh the positive and the negative. And we're going to get into all this risk-benefit analysis. And that's what we're going to be doing. So instead of just looking at the bad things and saying no, we think about the bad things that could happen, but also know the good things. And when we start to do that, we can start to feel more comfortable saying yes to play. And when we do that, children are playing, and then maybe they go like, oh, okay, I'm getting a little more freedom here. I can try things for myself, and I can be safe, or I can fall, but I can get up again, and I can try it again. And that's kind of the resiliency, right? Of like knowing that you can fail, but knowing that you can get up again and try again, or decide that you don't want to do it again, or you want to wait. And that's an important thing with risky play. A benefit of risky play, if we're writing it down, it's that resiliency. It's that knowing that you can, fall off a log and get back up. And essentially that then is something that children learn inside. As I'm basically saying all your thoughts here, but it's nice to hear it again. The children know that they can do things that they've never done before. And maybe it won't work the first time, but they know they could try again. And balancing a log that will translate right to school readiness and school learning, say reading even. Because what's reading but doing something you've never done before? Trying to make sense of these adult symbols. How do I hold it? And that can be nerve-wracking. But if children, say in your care, have had experiences trying things they've never tried before, maybe falling a little bit, but then getting back up, knowing they have your loving support, well, then they know they can do that. So then when they're reading or learning math or having social interactions with people, they know they can try things, and maybe it won't always pan out, but they know they're resilient and they can give it a go and try again. And then that's what builds in life, and that's what keeps going, and that's what makes strong, resilient, confident, creative, good problem solving children, teenagers, young adults, and adults. That's what we're going for, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, it's all little by little. I'm about to jump into pictures here, but just to kind of, we don't have to do huge jumps with all this, but it's just like if the needle has gotten pulled to the side of overprotecting or really protecting or stopping stuff that makes us nervous because we don't want kids hurt, maybe we're just going to try to pull the needle back just a little bit of that at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Incremental changes. And I would also say, like, during this coronavirus time, we all need to take deep breaths. We all need to relax a little. We all need to be good to ourselves, and we need to be good to children. And if you're watching the recording long after all the coronavirus is solved and everything's great and we're flying high and we've changed things for the better, then great. But we know that children still need to play, and we need to kind of relax and say yes a little bit more for our own sake, to let our shoulders go down, and for children, right? And during this time, I think it's like, let them play. What can we do to let them play more? So I am going to jump into some pictures now. Share my screen. Okay. Now I have to go. Bing. Okay, here we go. So, Adventures in Risky Play. That's my son when he was in preschool, doing the leap year. And I'm going to talk about also parents and how to get them on board. And I'm going to talk about licensing. Because with my book, let's just go right into it. My book, on sale now. And so I'm talking about all this stuff is in the book, and tons of pictures and stories. I interviewed people doing amazing stuff with kids and risky play, and I interviewed licensors to get their perspectives. I'll talk a little more about that. And then I'm going to be doing a book club in January to really go deep. But we're going deep today too. And we're going deep in kind of our shared love of play and the beauty of play and the just hilariousness of play and the big body stuff that children do and the quiet stuff that children do and the social connections that are play. And it's all beautiful. It's all amazing to behold. And silly. Children will do things with stuff that we put out there that we would never imagine. As you know, in your classroom, block building, loose parts, amazing things happen that we wouldn't necessarily build. They do it. So if we put stuff out there, they will build. And that's awesome and fun to see and witness and be a part of. And, I'm also about connecting kids to nature and the planet and the cycles of life and the seasons of the year. And how can we surround children with plants and plant abundantly? It's nice to have any kind of plants out there, any sunflowers, but maybe, we think about when you're planning this winter, what you're going to do next spring, what you're going to plant, or if you're down under the other hemisphere now and you're plant with wild abandon, tons of stuff. So you can pick it, use it for mud kitchens, use it for play, all that kind of stuff. But we want kids to be surrounded by plants. Maybe you could plant, like this group, a kale forest. Just let your kale grow wild. It's safe for a playscape. And the seasons, we think about play, and we want kids to experience the seasons, celebrate the seasons. And so again, like, it's our job as adults to create the space, the time, space, and add the materials so we can decide what we want to plant to celebrate autumn, like by the colors that the trees will change into, or spring with spring blossoms. And winter, we just had our first snow yesterday in Ithaca, New York, where I live. And of course it's great, but then how can we celebrate the seasons? And how can we make sure the kids are out there experiencing the seasons? All different weather. And when we put plants in children's environments, those plants then can be used for play. Like this. It's the part of an allium bulb, that had grown and was this beautiful purple flower. And now, what is it in her hands? Fireworks? A magic wand? The Big Bang energy? Who knows? But it's beautiful. And it's because an adult was like, let's plant allium bulbs. And let's let kids play with those things. And so those adults, that's what we're doing. That's what you're doing. But when we put things in children's spaces, they could start to use them in ways that make us feel uncomfortable. Is that a weapon? And then, okay, so then we all have our yeses and nos, and we all have our values, and we all have our ideas and different things that we think about in education. And that all comes into play when we think about our yeses. And so I'm going to show all sorts of pictures here of kids doing wild stuff. And it's because those adults have said yes, or they didn't say no. But what's important, what I want you to think about, is that it's not as important what these people are saying yes to. It's what is your yes. And that's why that's part of the slogan of that book. What is your yes? Because your yes is going to be different than anybody else's. And it's based on those childhood memories that you had. It's based on the center that you're at. It's based on the co-teacher that you're with. It's based on the parents that you work with. It's based on the kids and their skill levels and all that. So it's your yes. What is your yes? And it's always moving, because your yes, it could be, things get a little sketchy, children start using things in different ways, like, oh, a ladder, but they're using it like this. And then your yes has to be also based on, like, observing, like, is he okay? I know this kid. Okay, he's done this before. Okay, I can feel okay about that. Maybe not. But we want to get to that point where we know our children, you know your children, and you're stepping back a little bit and watching. You're ready to dive in if you need to. When we say yes more, the no's that we do say have more weight. Children will recognize that. Of like, oh, I have a lot more freedom. But when she or he says, no, watch out, I'm really going to listen even more. Because it's not no all the time. It's a lot of yeses, but when there's something. But so we want children to be able to assess for themselves what they want to do. That's kind of our goal. So it's really about finding what your yes is and how you can say yes to different kinds of risky play. And so you may be doing different things like this group. We all know that children like to climb, and they like to jump, and they like to take it to the next level. So I love it. This group was like, we recognize that and we want to support that. And for us to feel comfortable for children to be jumping off this kind of stuff, at least at this moment, we're going to put these pads down. So it's all about thinking, what will help you feel comfortable to say yes? Because that's what we ultimately want. It doesn't matter. It's not so much that we need that kid jumping in the wood chips. It's really about the activity of climbing and jumping. And if it's jumping in a soft pit, well, that's fine. You know, I'm not a purist with this. It's the idea of like, we want the real action to happen. So what can we do to make ourselves feel comfortable and to protect injuries so that we can allow it to happen? And so at this moment, let's make this distinction between, this is important, risk and hazard. Risk and hazard. And especially as we're looking at this slide. And so quickly, a risk is good, hazard's bad. And let's say that a risk is something, a child that could be a little dangerous, say like this, that a child can see, but they can choose for themselves if they want to do the activity or not, right? So he's up there and he can look down and know, this is scary, this is a little risky, it's a little dangerous. And so he's doing all those assessments himself, risk-benefit analysis, do I want to do this, do I not? And so the risky play is play that children can choose to do, knowing that there could be a consequence, but being able to choose yes or no. A hazard is something that could hurt them, that they don't see, that they don't know about, that we want to make sure is out of there, is not in there, that would surprise them and hurt them and maybe hurt them bad. And so for a gory example, say in between those two cushions, what if there's a chunk of concrete, a concrete block, or there was a rebar? Maybe they're putting that cushion up because there's lava under there, but the child doesn't know it. It's an exaggeration, of course, but that's the idea of like, well, that's part of our job as adults, is to think about making sure it's part of your playground safety guideline, safety check in the morning. sorry, I'm tuning in something from another planet. Okay, it's our job to think about making sure that all the hazards are gone, right? So we clear your daily playground safety check is to make sure there's no bottles or glass or chunks of rebar or broken toys or whatever that could sneak in somewhere, that a child could even, like, say, you know, every day they jump on this, there's nothing bad, but one day there's some broken like sand toy thing in there, and that they could land on that, and that's the hazard. So risk is good. That's something a child can choose. A hazard is something that could get them, but that they don't choose. Okay. So we're looking at risky play. Let's think about your yes. And let's do some polling here. I'm gonna go through a series of things. I want you to poll, and then we'll just see as our group here, we'll see what the percentages are. So I'm gonna ask you with these pictures of what is your yes, and what is your no, and what is your maybe. Because really things, you know, it depends, you know, a lot of things, the answer really might be it depends. It depends on a lot of things, but okay. So are you ready, McCadden? You ready with our first poll here? I'm gonna click it. We'll start with an easy one. Children in sunflowers. So let's see. Okay, oh, the yeses. Okay, maybe, yeah, that's reasonable. But okay, all right, the yeses look like they're, okay, so sunflowers and good. And then, of course, again, without anything, even sunflowers, it's like, okay, how do we manage it? And how do we make sure it's okay? And you think about bees, or you think about this and that. But the idea of like, okay, so there's that first one. And so, whoops. How about children and chickens? Okay, yes, no, maybe. It's trickier, maybe. What are our local ordinances? Can we have chickens? Maybe. I like this. All right, but you're at a Rusty Keeler workshop, so, you know, we would expect there to be some chicken lovers. Okay, next. Kids on a guy on a log, on logs. Yes, no, maybe. Okay, okay. Yeah. Okay, how about next one? Jumping off a log with a sand fork toy in his hand. Okay, all right. And of course it's hard because you don't know this guy and you don't know what he's capable of and how good he is in his body. So it's a little extra nerve wracking. Okay, so it's a little edgier. Okay, we're getting in some different territory here. Okay, so next one, tree climbing. Okay, there's some yeses, there's some nos, there's some maybes. And a lot of the maybes depends on what you can do to make that safe. And I'll just quick say that like this group, the apple tree, they, if you notice, they trimmed any eye pokey branches, kind of where they climb. And they actually put wood chips down to treat it like playground equipment. To set, the proper resilient surfacing under there, just as a fall zone, just like playground equipment. So they found their ways to feel comfortable saying yes. But again, every situation is different. Every center is different. Okay, next one, mud kitchen.
Rusty, can you talk a little bit more about what the mud kitchen is?
Okay, so this is a pretend kitchen, and it's a place that you might bring pots and pans and let kids just have at it, make concoctions and mixtures, and I'm sure there's some people that have made mud pies, and you had your childhood memories. So it's a place you can make mud pies and make a little mess, and it's really like, I mean, you could have the most traditional, regular playground equipment area playground, but maybe you had one corner that was like a mud kitchen. And look, here we go, lots of yeses here. So let's just say, okay, mud kitchen. So how about a muddy mud kitchen? Muddy mud kitchen. Yeah, okay, so you're saying like, yeah, Keeler, that's what a mud kitchen is. All right. Okay, how about real mud? Real muddy. Okay, look at that. Still, the yeses are having it, and the maybes, but there's more maybes there, of course. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. And there's a lot of things that you would have to take into consideration there: clothes and parents and cleanup and hoses and access to water, all those things. Okay. Okay, we're getting a little edgier. Fire. Children and fire having a cookout. Okay, all right. With the numbers. Okay, we got about a third ish. Maybes and more maybes. And of course, it could seem crazy, kids and fire, preschoolers and fire, until we, again, take those deep breaths and maybe remember to our childhood where we cooked marshmallows or hot dogs over a fire. We had campouts, and thinking about like humans since the dawn of time have been around fire, and children have been around fire. And it's important that children learn about fire safety, and being with someone caring and loving like you, that might be the perfect place to learn about fire. But okay, now I saved the most controversial for last. Ready? Up a slide. Going up a slide. Oh, all right. Maybe that's not controversial. Some people have that in their head that Go up the steps, go down the slide, go up is because I think it's a rule that we have. I think it's a rule. Is this a rule? I don't know if it's a rule. I feel silly saying this rule. Well, all right, look at this. That wasn't controversial at all. All right, good. That was fun. Was that fun? It's fun to watch. Great ideas. Okay, so I'm going to get out of that. I think that's it for the polls. So now let's say how. How do you do this? How do you support risky play? And so here's part one. Risk benefit analysis. I've been hinting at this. And this is what licensors now say. And I've talked to people at the highest level of licensing, on the national level and the state level. You know, I did a lot of interviews for my book and just talking to people about this issue. And they say that they all agree that risk is important for children, and access to risk is important. Reasonable risk and supervised risk, but they know that it's important, like what we're talking about here. And so one of the things that they say that it's very important is that you can document, basically, that you know what you're doing, that you're doing this mindfully, that it's not an accident. There's this big fallen log right there on your playground and kids are climbing all over it. It's not an accident. It's like you did that on purpose. And one way that you can do this, and that people are doing it, and all the way to like forest schools where kids are outside in all weather and doing wild stuff, or like that was a muddy, when they're sliding down that mud hill, the way that they do that is they do risk benefit analysis. And you could do this for any of those things. Kids with chickens, kids with mud, kids with fire. And you look at the risks, but you also look at the benefits. And because, special effects here, in the old days, we just did risk analysis. And that's when we looked at something and we said, you could poke your eye out. A chicken could scratch you. You could get sick, or you could get burned, or you could get, and we think, oh, that bad thing could happen. So we'll say no, and then we can feel good about it. We protected our kids. But we know now that overprotecting limits children's free flow of growth. So we want to now do the risk-benefit analysis. And so that's that idea of looking at the benefits. So looking at the risks of said activity, but also looking at the good things. Giving the good things in life a chance, right? That's what we want to do. We can get in habits of seeing the negative things, but we gotta, with our brains and the way we're wired, we need to kind of like work hard, extra hard, to see the positive sometimes, or to see the benefits, or to see the good things that could happen. So that's what people are doing. And then that's what people are doing to show licensors. And so you actually can say, with balancing on a log, and I have this in my book, I have a whole section of a lot of this stuff. It goes real deep, but here it's that idea of like, you can literally say, pick any topic, whether it's a kid with a chicken or fire or on a log, and do a risk benefit analysis. And you look at the risks and you look at the benefits, and then the management are things that you can do, like I described with that tree climbing, that you can do to make it safer and make yourself feel comfortable, more comfortable for children to do it, and that maybe you're dialoguing with children too. So I have two here that I'd like to run with you. Let's do these, and we can do it in the chat box. And so again, we get creative thinking of the negative things, and that's okay. We're wired to protect our young, but we also want to help rewire ourselves to also see the positive things of this. So when you do this, this is good just for you. It's good for your own practice. You may be just doing this on the fly when you see risky play. You're doing this every day, basically. But when you can do it on a formal and you put it on a piece of paper, then you can throw it in a 3-ring binder, and then boom, you have something that you can show licensors when they come in cold, seeing a kid jump with a fork or bouncing on a log or whatever. You can be like, oh, well, we've thought it all out. Let me tell you about that log on their playground. Let me tell you about that giant boulder we have in the corner. Boom. You can show it to parents. Oh, it's not an accident. We've thought it all through. We talked to the children. We did this exercise. We went through it. And then also when new staff come, you show them the 3-ring binder. When they're like, you let children get muddy, you let children do this. You're like, well, here's the thought process that we went through to come to the decision to say yes. You may also go through this thought process and come to the decision to say no. That's okay. It's a good process to go through. It's a good, if the answer is no, then great, and you've really thought it through. So let's do this. In the chat box, let's start with risks and think about logs, children in logs. And okay, what is a risk of having logs out there? Risks. Thanks, McCadden. Falling off, splinters. Could fall and break a leg. Busting your face. Scrapes. Yep, falling.
I think we had hitting the head also in there.
Hitting the head. Yep, getting hurt. Could roll over, so the things could roll over. Slippery when wet. Kids pushing each other off if the log isn't stable. Broken bones, head or face injury. These are good. Gruesome. Is it weird that we're so good at thinking about all the horrible things that can happen to our children? Why do we do that? There's something in the book, I have this thing about fear, and the letters of fear, F-E-A-R, and it could be thought of as false expectations appearing real. Fear. And so we think these things, we got these brains, false expectations appearing real, fear. So, okay, well, what if we had good expectations appearing real? What if we, that feels better in the body. We flood ourselves with adrenaline about some of those negative things, but it's still important. Okay, it's still important to think about those negative things. I'm not going to just diss that because we don't want stuff to happen, and we got to think about those things. You have to think about those things. But okay, so for fun now, let's think about the benefits. Let's think about good things appearing real. Like what would be, okay, learning balance, gaining courage, sense of accomplishment, knowing they're going to be okay, gross motor skills, perceptual motor development, imaginative games, communication, trial and error, learn to use your body, trust yourself, core strength, mobility, dramatic play, proprioception, gain confidence, teamwork, focus. Okay, keep it coming. But we'll say, okay, so this is what you would do with a risk benefit, and you probably do this, but if we do it today, you would write those two things down, and you'd be like, okay, fall, do this, and okay, but there's all these things. And then you make your decision based on that. But not just yet. What's the management? What are things that you can do to make it safer or reduce the possibility of injuries? And that you would feel more comfortable letting them do that, but also that would really help. So what were some things that you could do? How could you manage the log to lean in the directions of saying yes more? Embed the log, anchor it down, adult close by, one child at a time. So maybe having some guidance or rules about it, sand off sharp edges, offer a hand to hold, yeah. Teachers nearby, include the children in creating rules. Yes, I love that. And maybe that's the most important, is you talk to children about it all ahead of time, and then they know. And then you also know that, and people do different things. So every yes is different. Every person's different. Every adult, every center. And some people are like, yeah, we're going to put those things in solid so they don't wiggle. Other people are like, we want them loose. We want kids to be able to roll them around and set up different things and know that it's wobbly. And we know that that is good for core strength too. And, so every place is different. So when if you all did these at home by yourself or with your staff, with your centers, they would be different, and they should be different. So, okay. So then Oh, I should have had a poll here, right? Based on this risk benefit management, would you have said yes or would you have said no? Would you say yes or would you say no? Okay, so let's do another.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah,
I just
Rusty.
wanted to say we could go to gallery view and you could have like, thumbs up, thumbs down. We could kind of see a little bit of a poll that way.
Yeah,
If you
that's
want.
all right. I'm gonna we'll let people sit with it or say yes in the yeses. It's okay. Again, you don't have to say yes for me. It's for you. It's for you. So, all right, now we're gonna do a tougher one. Although it wasn't that tough for this group. Let's do the upside. And maybe this is just something that we could do that then you could take back to your center, because maybe you're a yes to upslide, but maybe some of the people that you work with aren't. So let's look at the risks. Let's jot down the risks here of what are some risks about going up a slide. Broken bones, collisions. It's not proper. Get kicked in the face, sliding and hitting face. Children might be in the way when trying to go down. Slip, hit chin, teeth, head. The child going up. The two kids at the same time. Big kid risks if children don't have a shared expectation about the plan. You're all awesome. I love you're so thoughtful, and these are great. I know I'm dealing with professionals here. I'm certainly not surprising you're awesome, but you're awesome. Falling backwards, head injury, hit mouth. Okay, there's great, good. There's some horrible things there. Good job. Okay. Now let's look at some benefits. What would be a benefit of children going up that way? Core strength, coordination, balance, strength building, determination, climbing, balance, gross motor gains, creativity, arm strength, perseverance, teamwork, empowering, grip strength, problem solving, weight distribution, communication, social skills, negotiating space, learning friction. Yeah. No limits. No limits. Okay, great. How about management? Say if you would consider doing this, what would you do to manage it? Have one at a time. That's good. Weather conditions into account. Have clear expectations. Observe. I like that. Observe. I mean, really, with playground equipment, there's weird things to climb all over it, right? Designers make weird things to climb up to playground equipment. Why isn't this just a weird thing to climb up playground equipment? Children's attention, encourage kids to communicate, guidance. Encourage kids to negotiate, directions clear, adults close by to support, facilitation of negotiations. Great. All right, well, you're old pros at this. So that's it, risk benefit analysis. It helps you, I mean, and then they have this term in the play work world of dynamic risk benefit analysis. And that's like, you don't have the three ring binder, you're not doing this, it's on the fly, right? And that's how you spend your days. A lot of you, most of you, making these choices on your own. So you can formally do it on paper, or you're just doing it on the fly. Okay, what's next? Oh, good. Okay, this is kind of a yes, no, maybe, but it's actually a little video. Here's a little video part. And this is my son a few years ago. We were out picking apples, and then we went up to the kind of this picnic area, and they had all these apple crates. Yes, no, maybe. Now, so I have a video, and when we watch children, you're watching children all the time, and a million billion things are happening, and you love play, and you love being a part of it, but it happens so fast. Whoa. Look at that. Do you see that red mark on there? Where'd that come from? Well, let's see what happens. So I did it in slow motion. Okay. because things happen so fast. So watch his thinking. So it's risky play. I said yes. I made my choice. I scanned for hazards and I felt comfortable. Watch his thinking and everything. There it is. Okay. Maybe just jot something. Yeah, put some thought or reflection. Or what did you notice in the chat box there? And for me, when I think about risky play and children doing things, it's a dance. Future stuntman. Like they're navigating all this stuff and they're making split-second decisions and choices that, like a hummingbird, they're moving so fast we can't really see it. But slow it down, we start to see the process that they go through, and it's amazing. And for me, I see that there's a little, like at the very end, there's a little smile. There's like a little uplift, and they were literally, there it was in front of us, the trial and error. He fell and then he came back and did it. Right. He builds confidence. He was able to approach the tipped one and did it a second time and he got it. He knows he could do it back. And so he had that opportunity to fail and then succeed. And so I feel like the more that we can provide those kind of opportunities for children, just that little uplift, I feel like those little uplifts, they add up. They add up, and one after another, and they fill children, and they boost their sense of themselves and their self-confidence and their esteem and them knowing themselves and what they can do. And so that's kind of the idea of like, how can we feel comfortable doing all the things we need to do, getting rid of hazards, doing risk benefit analysis, to allow those things to happen, that those little more of those uplifts can happen. Okay. So I work with folks like you to design natural playscapes. This is one of my designs. And so it's a whole mix of things: hills and pathways and tricycle tracks and little water flows and creeks and bridges and hill slides and loose parts areas and gardens and orchards. This place has sheep, but it actually started in the playground world. My first job out of design school, was working for a playground manufacturer. And that's where I first learned about play and loved play and was amazed by play and child development. And then I love the idea, not only of the beauty and importance of play, but that how adults can think about play and design their spaces and places and stuff to support play and to support children's development in their lives. I worked for a sister company in the Netherlands for a year, and then my idea shifted, and I got interested in the natural playscape movement and world, and where maybe there's some fixed playground equipment, but you're also building hills and putting plants in and the seasons and all that stuff, and building living willow huts and willow tunnels. And the idea of like putting kids surrounded in beautiful environments, surrounding them in beautiful spaces that change in the seasons, and their smells and multi-sensory experiences. And then my aesthetic and desires with play went different, continued to child-directed messy places, anarchy zones, adventure playgrounds. And I was inspired by the adventure playground movement that started in Europe after World War II, where they cleared up bomb sites and they left broken, loose part materials, and children were building and creating, and the healing properties of play helped heal children in those times. But adults recognized how beautiful the play was, and then they developed a whole professional play work that supported the play, not leading the play or directing the play, but just trying to, honor the child's right to play and then support it. So, so kind of went off the deep end with that. So my aesthetic changed to then wilder stuff, child-directed places. Keisha Reed, this is her center. She's got a new amazing place that she's created, but this is her last one. And look at it. What is this? Is it a vacant lot? Is this a junkyard? Is this a risky place for kids? Yes. Yes to all the above. Has she ever mowed her grass? I don't think so. Is it awesome? Yeah, I think it's awesome. And, people who may not know play may think, oh my gosh, that's our kid's place. But for all of you who understand play and know play and support play and know that if you put it out there, they will use it. It's rich with possibilities. And so, like I said, I have been talking to licensors about this stuff. And in the book, in my new book, Adventures in Risky Play, I have an interview with the guy who's the president of this organization on the national level, the National Association for Regulatory Administration. And you'll see he supports risky play and believes in it. And they when their conversations, they agree. And so they've had me come in and do presentations about risky play to their people on national conferences of licensors. I was nervous. Working with childcare providers, and you hear all sorts of stories, and licensors sometimes they have a different approach, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? They were lovely people. All these state people were amazing, and just like you, they care about children, and they want the best for children, and they want children to grow and have all the same goals, be healthy and rising up to their full potential. So I showed pictures, and I showed this picture, I'm showing them all risky play stuff. And at one point, someone raised their hand and said, are you saying this is good or bad? And I was like, it's good. This is good. And they're like, oh, okay. Oh, go, okay. And they bought it and they believed it, and we had great conversations. And, we agreed, like, if you look at that, and if your child looks at that, what is it that environment saying to a child? I say that it is saying yes. But the nature of it not being tidy and precious, and even some beat up pots and pans, that is saying yes to children. And that is endless possibilities compared to this. This in some circles, or in the old days, it was thought of like best practice for children's design, right? Environmental design. But it's got some things on there kids can do. With that wacky thing to get up, you can climb up that green sloping thing. That's kind of neat to get up there, but it's missing so much. But I'm a positive person, and if that's your center, I say that's great. You have some solid stuff in there that's going to last for a long time. That underneath space looks like it's a super fun place to get inside of. Look at that green strip in the back. Oh, maybe that's where you could plant your abundance of sunflowers. Oh, look at that nice wooden fence. Oh, maybe you can do art on there. Maybe you can build off of there. So it's like you can take that to the next level. But when you look at that, and then you compare it to that, and you think about the play potential or possibilities, they're quite different, aren't they? Yeah. Okay, but how do you do it? How do you get away with doing that kind of stuff? How do you talk to your licensor about that stuff? How do you, so the risk benefit, that's a huge one for your comfort level, but there's still so many. This is deep. There's so many layers to this. We're scratching the surface here, but we can go deeper. And so the book goes deeper. I think you will like this book. And that book club, 4 weeks, 4 weeks in January and evenings, and we'll be going deeper. But how? How do you do this? What do you add to a play environment to make more risk? Immediately, if you add children, there'll be more risk, right? More risky things happening. So that's it. There's going to be risk in your environment because there's kids in there. But probably the most important thing is your relationship with your children, right? You know your kids. You may have been with your kids for years, and you've seen them develop, and you know what their skill levels are. You know what their strengths are. You know what their challenges are. You know how they are in their bodies. You know how they are with other children. You know how they are on fallen logs. And you've seen them change and grow, and you see them, they're different in the fall than they are in the springtime. Being with you for a whole year, they grow, so much happens. And that's different. Your view and your connection and your relationship is different than, say, a licensor coming in cold, right? And being like, what's that big log doing out there? In this case, you're letting a child drink muddy water. He wanted to do it. But so it's important that you have that, you have that relationship, but it's important that you then can communicate that relationship. And those are some of the whys that you may do things that a licensor might question. But that also gives you, some confidence to knowing that you can let your children do things. Okay, here's my son and his friend Zara years ago at a preschool. We did a playground build with zero budget. So we used things like pallets and scrap lumber. I built this, very proud of this thing. Looks rickety, but it's solid. I did. I took pride in how well built that weird thing was. But so I showed this picture one time at a workshop, and people were like, Rusty, there's a saw on the ground under them, and there's a hammer, and there's, who knows what under there. And if you don't know those kids, you might be nervous. There's no safety fall zone, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, I took this picture. I know those kids. And I've seen them, I knew them since they were born, and I've seen them together. And because of that, I could feel confident or comfortable with them up there because I've seen them on other wooden rickety things having fun together, climbing weird things that their parent may have made. And so I know, they know their way around a rickety, weird wooden thing. So I could feel comfortable about them being up there. And they actually, the truth is, they helped me build that. So they know that there's a brick there and a hammer there and all that kind of stuff. This is them testing it out. So because of that relationship with them, I could feel comfortable letting them be up there. Woo, and jump down. Trusting children. Anybody know who that is? Pippi Longstocking, strongest girl in the world. Here's a little Pippi Longstocking sequence. On the way to town, Pippi found a ditch. I like ditches. I'm pretending to be a boat. I mean a submarine. And then her friends are looking on horrified. They say, but now you're soaking wet. And she says, so? What's wrong with that? And I think that's good for us, again, as we're taking steps back and we're letting our shoulders go back and deep breaths to reflect on that idea of what is wrong with that. And what are our yeses and what are our nos based on? And is it based on our own comfort level and our own feelings of stuff that we have to do? This is a center at Kent State University, amazing program. And I was visiting on a kind of cool, rainy day. And at first I was amazed and I felt great because they were outside on a cool, rainy day. Yay, that's great. And then the next thing that was amazing was that some kids had coats, other kids did not have coats. Some kids had boots, other kids did not have boots. And I learned, as I learned more, they let the children, unless it's like crazy, like, dangerous weather conditions, let children make their choices of what they feel comfortable with and what they want to do. And the big reason is because they had things in place to be able to handle that at their center. They have a washer and dryer. They have extra clothes on hand. So they have a whole system of, you go outside and you get wet, then you come back in, you got to strip it down, put the clothes in the wash and dryer, put your other clothes, all that kind of stuff. And it could be looked at as, well, that's a lot of work. That's more work. But it could also be looked at as, that is the work. That is the work. That is our work. If our goal is to support children's play and development and growth and say yes and let play unfold, that is the work. And that maybe those are the extra things that we have to do to support that kind of play. But it's just the work. Clothes, okay, it's another one. You know that saying, there's no bad weather, just bad clothing? Well, maybe you can have good clothing so that they can get out there and explore and play and have no limits. You were writing that, no limits. And so having the right clothes certainly helps cut down on limitations. And so that girl in green there, will say no limits. And okay, well, that's clear they were having no limits. We go back just a sec. So maybe that's something that you could write a grant for. There's a lot of grants that are being written now, COVID times, with early childhood resource referral, your agencies of to help support being outside more in COVID time. Maybe you could be writing some grants for clothes. But then also just having extra snow pants on hand, asking parents, okay, this is what we need because we're going to be outside, especially now. And having extra things on hand, having hand-me-downs so you can have, and I'm sure you do this, of course, already. But maybe, maybe parents aren't in the opportunity of providing extra clothes. Maybe they can't, that they don't have the funding for that kind of thing. Well, that's okay, because you can get it at secondhand stores and Salvation Armies and put out requests for it. There's tons of bins. Hey, I got extra bins of stuff you can have in my attic. Other people do too. So just having stuff on hand, you don't have to put the burden on parents, and you have it on hand extra. And also remembering that children are washable. So no bad weather, just bad clothing, but it doesn't just go for kids, it goes for you too. Okay, here's a poll. It's important for you to have those clothes. So do you go outside in cold weather? In the Northern Hemisphere, here we go. We're starting to, up to the north, we're starting to have colder weather coming on. So do you have snow pants? Do you have the right clothes? It makes all the difference. Because often we also say no to things because we don't really want to do it. Ooh, it's rainy out there. I don't want to go out. Even though we know it's good for kids and we want kids to be experiencing all kinds of weather, all kinds of situations, as long as it's not, totally crazy storms. And same with winter. We want children to be experiencing winter. And we don't want to be the ones to hold it back. And we don't want to get cold. So I'm just encouraging you, get your long underwear, get your snow pants. Everybody looks cute in snow pants. Okay, moving on. Parents. That's kind of the last thing here. Of course, it's another big factor. How do you talk about this with parents? How do you, let them know that risky play or messy play is good? Hopefully I've been giving you some ideas and things to think about. You could show them my book, because there's lots of stuff in there about the benefits of risky play, and show how it will help their children grow, and how this is your policy, how that you've thought it through. And you can have that in dialogue and documentation. So here's an example of a communication, a letter from teachers to parents. I'll read it to you here. It's good. Parents beware. Max, Addie, and their friends are cooking up something and it looks tasty. I could not say please stay out of the water. As those little feet mashed and smashed as if stomping grapes into a vintage wine. Please stop and take a look at our slideshow photos on top of cubbies. We will be spending more time outside, and we will be needing rubber boots and old clothes that will have a lot of dirt and mud on them. Spelling it out so you're not surprising parents with it. Please take some time to check your child's cubby basket and to expect changes of wet or dirty items. So it's just preparing them. Also, an old sweatshirt or light fleece would be nice to leave here on warmer days. Mrs. Kelly and I have been gathering ideas to have more of our classroom time outside exploring nature. With this in mind, and springtime is starting to show signs of green grass and tree buds about to burst, we will be mine's covered up. Bird viewing, filling bird feeders, planting seeds with Miss Kylie, repotting our classroom plants, and cleaning the outside of our fence. Thanks for being great parents. So that idea of just bringing them in and communicating and talking about the benefits of it, of the exploration. And often if you're making big changes to start to head in this direction, it may be toughest for the parents that toured your school when you weren't doing this and chose, because you're going to have to be like, oh, we're evolving, we're changing. But once you do, this becomes what you are. And then when parents come take their tours, they see this is the spirit of the place, and this is the place that we want our children to be. And then you get known for it, and then you have waiting lists galore because people want this for the children, because this whole idea is part of a new movement. And so it's not just us that are realizing that, wait, children are overprotected and we've been saying no for so long, we need to say yes. And parents are wanting it, and it's being talked about. This is an important issue. Yes. And so the spirit of play and the spirit of childhood and your spirit mixing with it all. And this book can help you say yes. And so I have a million billion ideas in there, and it goes deep, and then I have tons of pictures and examples from all over the world of people who have found ways to say yes. So I also encourage you, I'm going to do a book giveaway, and I'm going to encourage you, just check it out. I have a website that you can go to, and I have lots of ideas and inspirations on there. There's links in the chat box here. And if you want the book, you can go to the store. And then I've been really excited to be working on online classes in this time. And so I feel like we did go deep, we got into some interesting territory there as we start to do some self-reflection, but I'm going to be going deeper with people. And so certainly the book is deeper, but in January, if you go to the website and look at online classes, I'm going to be doing a book club, a 4-week book club. And I would love to have you be there as we reconsider these ideas. And so it's about you and risky play, and we're going to be getting into all things, all kinds of conversations and self-reflections, and doing exercises, and then doing observations and homework that is like, noticing, watching play and thinking about the things that we may be talking about, and then observing, and then starting to make little changes. And it's about all of us as adults and working with children, our growth, our evolution. How do we start to say yes, a little more, a little more, a little more? And so I'm going to base those 4 weeks on the book, and we're going to get into it. And it's all these kind of ideas, but even more so. And it's going to be kind of looking at the beauty of play, but all the reasons that we may say no, but then all the benefits. I even get into some brain development stuff and showing really why risky play is important for children. And then even more ways to say yes to risky play. and then all sorts of play provocatives of like basically that the world is upside down. We've said no for too long for children to do things that really children need to do, that children always have done. Climb trees, be barefoot, rough and tumble play, mixed ages, chickens, fire. And then we're going to go through, and I have adventure playgrounds in Germany and Denmark and nature schools in Scotland and New Zealand and Australia and North America, and great stuff. So I'm going to be doing it in January, 4 Thursday evenings. And so it would be fun to just get together and kind of talk about all this stuff and dig into it. So I have a special for you. So the book, $34. So maybe I hope that what I gave you today that you can run with, and they gave you some good ideas. You want to take it to the next level? You could do the book. You want to take it to the next level? Do the book club. And then a special today, I'm going to give you this. You can get a discount if you go to buy the book today till tomorrow. But also, if you do the book club now, I'll throw in the book. And so you can have everything for just the price of the book club. You can have the book and the book club for the price of the book club. And ultimately, it's about the relationship and the time that you have with your children. And I'm just really excited that you were here today, and I love all your comments, and you all are really amazing. And again, I want to thank you for the work that you've done and that you continue to do, and the beautiful connections that you have with children. I'm going to send you an email right away. I have it timed, so it's going to come at 4:30 to you. You should get it. That has some of these links. So if you want to look at the book or my website or sign up, buy a book, do this book, the January, let the holidays go by, and then we can get into this January book club. And then you'll also find out if you are the book giveaway winner. Yes, one of you lucky people. I picked a name already, and you won a book. So when you get this email, give it a click, and yeah, see if you want, and see some of that stuff. And I have my contact information. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you're up to and what your yard is and what your yes is and things that you try. And if you have questions about some of the stuff I talked about or want some more answers, and I'd love to hear from you. I love talking about this stuff.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah.
We have had a few people ask, and I wonder if you can just clarify the group. I know we're recording this today, and just wanting to confirm, will the recording go out to everybody who's registered? And a lot of people are excited to share this with colleagues and others that they know. So could you just make a general announcement for folks about the recording and sharing? And I also wonder if you could address if the coupon offer is something they can share with other people, or is it just for the people who participated today?
Sure. Thanks, McCadden. So this is being recorded. So I will, I will also send you an email. So you'll have an email today, but then once I get the recording all set up, I'll send you another email so that you can have the recording. And then people who registered who weren't able to be here, they could watch it too. And you can share that with friends and family and parents and whoever you want. Also, if you need a certificate to say that you sat through this with me, I can send you a certificate. And I can stick around for a little bit here if anyone has any questions or wants to chat about anything. But I want to just say then, thank you. Thanks for being you, and thanks for being here. And yeah, deep breaths and onward and upward. Yeah.
Am I able to ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay. Just wondering if you have communicated with any certification reps in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
They're a bit of a nightmare of a state with really high expectations.
Okay. I would love to. I haven't yet. And I've talked to a few different states, and yeah, every state has, they have, everybody's yes is different, right? But no, if you could forward me people at different levels, if there's anyone that you think that I would be good for me to just talk to, I would be happy to.
Thank you. Let me see who's on my bad list this week, and I'll.
Yeah, and I want to have risky roundtables. So maybe that's something else I'll let you know about in the future of like, well, I would love to like say, well, okay, so we can all believe this stuff, right? And we can trial and error and we can do our risk benefit analysis. But if we're getting all this, if you're getting hammered by licensing and not just what they see, but then, in New York State, the ramifications of like if something goes wrong, what happens, that can be brutal. And it seems, we want to protect kids and we want programs to, do the right stuff, but at the same time, we don't want to hobble them from being able to do good stuff. And so a lot of this is going to take all of us working together, right? To say, hey, let's rethink some of these rules. If you're rethinking rules on your own playground, we need to rethink rules at county levels, regional levels, state levels, and all that. And the good thing is that, they ultimately listen. If enough people voice concern or voice, a lot of times we just kind of have these private, like, grin and bear it, grit our teeth kinds of things. But ultimately, I would like to work, I would say in the next, over the next couple of years, especially with this book and people talking about this. For me, I hope the book is a chance to start these conversations, is that we can go forward and start to have some momentum and have all this kind of talk to license the people in power.
I'm also one of the bad guys because I'm an assessor, not a licensor. I'm part of our quality assurance system in Pennsylvania, and so part of my job is assessing environments, including playgrounds.
Okay.
So it was very fun looking at everything from that perspective. So it gave me some really good thoughts. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I think there's stuff that I can incorporate. I mean, we have to follow guidelines. Of course we do.
Yeah.
You can still have fun and risky and be safe. So thank you.
You're welcome, Avery. Thank you. And thank you for bringing, your perspective on this and open mind. And reach out to me. I'd love to keep the conversation going about this.
That sounds lovely. Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. You too.
Rusty, we have a question about the book being available for purchase outside, I'm going to call it the continental US. The person specifically asked about Australia, I believe, but maybe just to address in general, outside continental US, is it available?
Yep. I would say Australia, if you go to the Book Garden or Padamelon Press, they are working with Exchange Press to carry it in Australia. And then other places, I can send it. You can get the signed copy from me on my website, and but it is pricey. International, heavy books cost a bit, but it's worth it. But yeah, so I can send it to wherever you are. You may just think you have to think about how many years you will be using this book, and it's only how many pennies or dollars a month. Yeah. So yeah, but Australia, you can actually get it from those places, or I can send it to you too, but you can get it cheaper from them. Yeah. And so those specials I have today and tomorrow, if you want to pass along to your friends the special, they can act on it too. Yeah. Friends and family special. Other questions? I'll hang out here. I want to hear your thoughts. I've been blabbing the whole time. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well, if not, thank you so much. And reach out, send me pictures. I like to see what folks are up to. And maybe in January we can go deeper with Adventures in Risky Play.